Hello, Active Sage here on the Sage Channel, and on this good day, the 18th of June, 2015, on the CEO of Keen Software House's blog, that is America Rose's blog, if you are unaware, a guest post was posted today by Dusan Andras. Not sure if I'm saying that right. Apologies if I have not. Well, what is this post all about? Well, you can probably see some images in the background already and read the title, Planets, of course. And I'm just going to go ahead and read through that, inject a little bit of my opinion here and there, and just get the information out there. So let's get right to that. First off, hello engineers, I am Dusan Andras. And for those of you who do not know me, I am the main programmer who is working on development of the planets for space engineers. So, planets. This has been one of the most demanded features by the community since we released the game on Steam Early Access. Players have been asking for it constantly, and we promised to deliver. My colleague, Andrei Petrzilka, already shared the first batch of info in his previous blog post, and there have been lots of things implemented since then. Planets are getting even closer to release. At this moment, we are not 100% sure when we will be able to release them, since it's one of the biggest features we have ever developed, and we hope that you will understand that this update needs proper testing before we add it into the game, even if they look complete and amazing in the screenshots. I would like to give you a sneak preview for each of the planet's properties, and also some nice screenshots we took during development. First up, we have planet size. This is always a question of fun versus reality. I can imagine that many players would like to have a real life-size planet, but for the sake of gameplay, time, and engine possibilities, we decided to use a 30 to 50 kilometer diameter for planets and an 8 to 10 kilometer diameter for moons. Yes, some generated planets could have 0 to 3 moons accompanying them. And then, of course, they have some images here, so I'm going to cut directly to one now. And this is an image of a 50 kilometer planet that is 50 kilometers away. And it's actually taken, I believe, from a moon that they're standing on. You can tell that it gives a decent feeling of size. I do worry that 50 kilometers might end up feeling a bit small, but I guess we'll have to see. At the same time, I personally really do worry that 50 kilometers or 30 to 50 could feel really quite small, especially with some moons going up to 10 kilometers in size. That's 1/3 of the size of a planet, one of those smaller planets. So I really do worry that even though it might seem like it's a decent size, it's not going to give that real feeling of a planet. It's always going to feel like you're just landing on a small planetoid. Ideally, I'd like it so that if your friend decides to build his base on the other side of a planet, it's going to take him a little while to get to you. There's not going to be, hey, can you come help me out? You're going to feel like you're on a proper planetary surface. Anyway, moving on from that, this is a 8 kilometer moon from the planet's surface. You can see another planet on the horizon. So if you look right down there at the horizon, you see a little tiny planet just cresting up. And then they have another picture here where they're showing more planets. Now, this image, the most, kind of makes me feel uneasy, because they seem so very close together. I'd like it so that you can see a planet from pretty far away, but you don't feel like you could just hopscotch between them. You can, maybe when you're on one planet, you can just barely see 2 or 3 other ones in the far, far-flung distance. So you'd be like, I think that's a moon out there. I think that's a planet far out there. I'd like it to feel like the planets are not something you're always stumbling across, but something really rare. When you get one, you're just happy to have found somewhere to land. Anyway, moving on from my little opinions on these images, we have next up gravity. Planets and moons will have natural gravity that will affect ships, players, and floating objects near them. The gravity will be scaled to the planet's size and will decrease the farther away you get from them. So that is something we've known for a while now about them actually affecting everything, and it's something that I'm worried that a lot of people aren't taking into account with their dropships and a lot of things, because you might have made your dropship with a few gravity cubes to sort of simulate the pull that it's going to have, but you have to be wary that when every single piece of your ship is suddenly being pulled downwards, if you have any lopsided designs, you could find yourself in a real spot of bother real quick as your ship maybe begins to tumble head over heels on itself. So you gotta be cautious, you gotta make sure you got braking thrusters in there when you're designing these landing crafts, and of course we won't fully understand how it works until it gets in there. It is pretty cool though that it says that the gravity will get weaker the farther away you are, which it's pretty damn awesome, really. So it's not like, oh no, we fell into the gravity well, we're doomed. it'll slowly increase on you, and you realize, oh no, maybe we shouldn't have come here yet. We're not quite ready to land. Anyway, moving on. Atmosphere. There will be 2 types of atmosphere around the planet's surfaces for now. 1, hostile, without any plants or life, and 1 for organic planets with flora. Organic planets will have an atmosphere full of oxygen that you can breathe and supply your ships with, and will have a bluish color like the Earth. Hostile planets will be without oxygen and will have different colors of the atmosphere. So that's really awesome, and right there you're kind of knowing that if you see a planet with a nice blue glow to it or a sheen to it, you'll know that you'll be able to land on there and stock up on oxygen, probably just by setting one of your vents to depressurize from the outside world, and it'll begin sucking in all that air. Pretty cool stuff. Also, they do mention vegetation, which is our next subject here. Vegetation. Trees, bushes, grass. We added new organic material types for planets. It's only on planets with an oxygen atmosphere and existing flora. In the future, you will be able to harvest this organic material, but probably not in the first planetary update. The flora, trees and bushes, has been borrowed from medieval engineers. The flora won't be visible from space, but will appear only when the player or ship gets closer to the planet and can be configured/disabled via the world settings. So that's pretty awesome to hear that, like everything else that they add, they're going to have world settings so you can toggle apparently how far you can see the foliage and stuff like that, and maybe even disable it. That's a performance thing, because you wouldn't want all those trees to be rendered on your system when you can't even see them when they're the size of a singular pixel. It's pretty damn awesome. In fact, the next picture they have here is Organic Planet from Space. It's a pretty damn awesome thing to see that it's got that blue shine to it, and a lot of it is sort of in a haze. Now, I'm not sure if this is just because it's dark, or hopefully it's because they have different biomes, which they haven't really confirmed, but I think they said they want to work towards. But you can imagine that the entire thing would have a lush forest in some areas of it, and maybe deserts in others, and assortments of different things. They still haven't confirmed that all that will exist, but I do hope they will have an assortment of different types of forests, jungles, swamps, and, of course, deserts and mountains. I do hope they manage to get all that in. Maybe not in their first update, but I would love to be able to see all of that eventually. Anyway, moving on. We do have another photo here, which is their current work-in-progress prototype of being on a planet. And this picture really illustrates one of the things I'm worried about when it comes to these small planets. And that's the fact that you can see the horizon line right there, and you can actually very easily feel that you are on a round surface. Now, when you're on Earth, I don't know about you, but when you look down a large straightaway, you usually don't get the feeling that you're standing on a sphere. Sometimes you might get a little bit of it. But the thing is, it really throws off the feeling of being on a planet when you have the horizon line seeming so very close to you. When you're standing on the planet, you can see the trees disappearing over the horizon line slowly. Usually in real life, you find yourself, well, mountains and buildings and lush forests usually block out the edge of the horizon, but you don't feel that things are slowly tilting over the edge of the planet as you do in this picture, which really concerns me. It's going to really kill the feeling of planets if you look out and you can tell that the trees are just slowly turning over the edge. Hopefully they'll manage to have some sort of fog system on planets and make planets bigger. That way they can have the fog slowly fade out the trees at a distance, and therefore have a larger planets. That way you don't see the trees going over these edges, or even have a fog system on these smaller planets to fade out the trees so you don't see them just slowly disappearing over. It is worrying though. And it is awesome, let's be honest too, the idea of having trees in Space Engineers and being able to land and actually have a forest. Of course, this is work in progress. Expect to see the ground changed and more tree variety and hopefully denser forests in the future. Love to have really, really twisted old oak forests. Anyway, moving on from these images, and by the way, that first image was at sunset. The second one is during the day. Moving on, we have sun, and this is probably going to polarize a few of you, but I think it's probably the best choice for how the game's set up. To simulate the day and night cycles, we decided to rotate the sun around the planets/world. The user will be able to configure the day duration from 1 minute to 24 hours, or disable the rotation to keep the current static sun. Different day-night cycles from the same planet. So you can see here a really quick transition I've set up that jumps between the 3 different images they provided with us to kind of get a feeling of it moving from day to night. It's pretty cool stuff, it really is. As I said, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who really don't like the idea of the sun actually moving, because it's also, of course, going to seem like it's moving around your asteroid as well, because it's just going to be moving through your skybox. But I think this really is the best solution. They cannot have these planets spin, they can't have them orbit around the sun or anything like that, because of the way their system's set up with the voxel grid. You can't really shift and move voxels, at least not too easily. I don't know of any game that successfully moves voxels. Some mods for Minecraft, but the way they do that is by deleting all of the previous voxels and pasting them back in the next block forward, which is not exactly ideal. I think it is also pretty awesome that they're giving us the ability to set how long days will be, so you can have a proper 24-hour day if you like. I suspect a lot of people are going to be shooting for somewhere in between that, or every couple of hours. Or who knows, maybe 15 minutes, something closer to a Minecraft or something of that sort. Anyway, moving on, we do have station voxel support, and this is actually a pretty damn awesome feature. Because of the planetary gravity, we added a new option for station grids, the station voxel support. By enabling this option, a station will be static only when touching the voxel, one block built inside it. So when you cut some part of the station away, it will become a dynamic object and fall. So basically, if you don't quite follow what that's saying, is just like in Medieval Engineers, when you begin building a structure, your first block you place will be inside the ground slightly, and hopefully maybe they're actually going to let us actually start building inside stuff again, that way we can have our nice underground tunnels. But either way, the first block for this would be placed partially in the ground, and every other block will be built off of that. Now, if you have, let's say, a block tower going up to a big radio dish or something up there, and you manage to sever any block between the ground and that, the entire thing, because it's all affected by gravity, will then begin to fall, because as soon as it's separated from the bottom station area, it basically becomes a large ship grid, I believe, and it'll begin to fall down. So that's pretty awesome stuff. It's not exactly structural integrity, because the blocks I don't think will have weight pressed upon them, but it is something that'll say, hey, I built a big tower, oh my god, why did you just blow up the base of my tower? The whole tower's now falling over, you bastard. Pretty cool stuff. Anyway, at the very end here, we do have a please keep in mind that everything that has been written and presented in this blog post can be changed until this feature is released. And I'd like to point out that I believe the wording there is a little wrong. It can also be changed after release. Keep that in mind. This is an early access game. They can go ahead and put this stuff in there and decide they need to change it, tweak it, remove the foliage, add more foliage, change planet size to be bigger or, unfortunately, even smaller if they find a lot of people are having performance issues. Everything that you've seen here, heard me talk about, and read on the screen can be changed in the future, and even after it is released. Thank you for reading, and we hope that you liked what you've seen. We can't wait to give you planets and start playing with them. Dusan Andros. And again, I'm sorry if I've mispronounced your name, but thank you very much for giving us this information. As I said before, I am a bit weary about the planet's size. I really do think it needs to be somewhere between 100 to 200 kilometers in size. 50 kilometers can feel very hefty, and actually is very hefty, frankly. But once you're actually on the planet, I'm just fearful that it'll seem fairly small. When you can actually feel the horizon edge bending down, it'll feel like you're just standing on top of a very large hill. I'm just worried about that. I guess in the end, we'll have to wait and see until we get it in game and can run around to see if it needs tweaking. And of course, like everything, I'm sure it'll have its bugs when it's first released, but it'll get tweaked, it'll get better. I do also like to point out that I am slightly worried that they will add this before they add their new netcode. There's been no word on which one will come first, but I would like to suggest that the netcode gets out there first, because I am very fearful of the idea of people trying to build big mega cities and stuff on these planets and finding themselves in a spot of bother with just lag and latency. People flying a big ship by and all of a sudden everything is freaked out. Alright guys, that's it. Thanks a bunch for watching and listening. I'll have a link down below to this blog post if you'd like to go ahead and take a look at it yourself. And yeah, that's it. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I shall see you next time. Ta-ta.